Yeah, I think the mapping scene, as being a mapper myself back in days, you spend so many hours on building something that was maybe highlighted for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then people forgot about it. And you had spent probably months on it, so many hours on it, and eventually forgotten about it, and then nobody cared after that. So I think it's the most underestimated, part of the community, and I think it's about time that they get rewarded. I think they get rewarded in PKR, but I would like to see Team Gel also reward the mappers and maybe promote them, because that is a great part of the community that is really not highlighted as it should be. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, in terms of that kind of not necessarily a question, but point you would bring up, what, if any, solution would you offer to, kind of mappers to demand or tournament organizers to provide? I mean, is it more recognition for their maps? Is it, monetary compensation for the time they're putting in? How would you kind of suggest that kind of works, so to speak?
Well, I think if you say that mappers should do this, or maybe mappers should go to a competition and say, "Hey, I want something back," then it's not going to work, because then the request and demand works here. Like, say that I built a really good map for Games Assembly. I know that it's top 5 maps, but I said to John and the people picking it that if you want to pick this map, you need to pay me 50 euros. Then it's going to say, okay, then we'll pick map number 6 instead of your map. So because there's always maps coming in, so it should be from the top down. Like the organizers should just see the value in what they provide. If there's a good map pack, it's going to be a good competition, and then the fans are going to like your event. If there's a shit maps, then the competition itself is going to be shit. I mean, it's the foundation of everything in the end. You can be as good at an event organizer as you want. You can start every match on time. You can have the best casters in the game. But if the maps are not good maps, if the player doesn't like to train the maps, if the viewers doesn't like to watch the maps, then your competition is not going to be viewed as a good competition. So if Nadeo wants to step, I think I stepped forward with it in man versus man. I paid, I don't know if it was 100 euros or 50 euros. It was something like a percentage of the prize pool just to highlight it. I tried to provide it to other organizers that eventually will host events, because I don't host events anymore. But I've not seen too much of it yet. And it should, because it's so easy to do something. It's so easy to host a competition and think that that work is free, because so many people will like to do it for free. And if they stop doing it, they stop doing what they like in Trackmania. So it's, I don't know, it should be something that Trackmania Grandly wants to do, just to be nice, just to show appreciation. It should be something PKR wants to do. I could say it's something Serrator wants to do, but he builds his maps himself. So, I mean, all competitions should appreciate it, and it's about time that they do, and hopefully they will if Trackmania becomes bigger and bigger, because, I mean, I'm a mapper myself. I'm always going to be. So, yeah, it's about time to show some respect to the mappers of this game.
Mm-hmm. What's your kind of 2 cents on that, Turbo? I know you've kind of dabbled in mapping for your own kind of tournaments and things like that, but what's your kind of perspective on the mapping side of things?
Yeah, I mean, I'm mapping for my cup at the moment as well, and just in the new game now, I have the feeling that everything got a little bit harder with all the new blocks, all the new opportunities you have with the sand and everything. So I think actually that mapping is not acknowledged in the community, and as Eirik already said, it is the foundation for everything, and therefore we need mappers. And mostly, so I have the feeling that mostly we have the same mappers when it comes to competitive track. We always have those, let's say Firestorm, for example, for Team GL Season 1. We had him building the identities and also adjusting some other things. But we need also some other people who can maybe get motivated, but maybe some want money for that, because I know that myself. You mapping for 4 hours and time flies by so fast when mapping. And I think building is a bit like cooking. I don't know. Because it can be simple and people can enjoy it, but it can also be like super complex and can blow people's minds. I think that's a good comparison. But yeah, I mean, mapping, just getting into it's super hard. Also with the new game now, I think it is a very hard thing to do.
And just a disclaimer, because I said that maybe this is something Nadeo should do. I'm not. I think the only mapper I spoke with is Superroll, and I think he said they are not getting rewarded. And now he said that after he built a map for the Trackmania show match, and that map wasn't eventually used, he was like, "Why should I even build for this map?" So I think at the moment they say he's never going to build for them again because simply they didn't show him respect. But I don't know. Like you brought up Firestorm or Storm. I don't know if he's getting paid for it because, in my eyes, he should be, because he built so many maps last season. So maybe it's wrong of me to assume that they are not getting rewarded with some sort, but I've not heard anything. And also a problem with Trackmania Grand League is maybe that it's not really, you don't feel like it's a public map request. Softy said that you can send in a map if you have a good map, but why not make like a request for it? I know he said personally that he doesn't have enough time, but I think a lot of community members would be happy to test out maps simply to make this competition better, and simply to have this feeling that mappers can contribute, and then if mappers can contribute, then you feel that the event itself is more community made. So some parts of the mapping side could be better in Trackmania Grand League and how the process is done, but I don't really know the insights of it, so I don't know if somebody from Nadeo is going to hit me up in DMs tonight and be mad about me, but if they do, I'm fine.
Yeah, no, I bet the issues you've had with that, but I mean, in terms of the mapping sides of things, if I can kind of have my input in that, I mean, I do agree with the kind of sentiment that you put, that mappers are kind of very underappreciated, and it seems to be that, some of the most crucial jobs for people from the outside looking in to Trackmania, so that would be what contributes to what you see when you look at a tournament. So that's going to be mappers, otherwise you wouldn't have a track to play on. Casters, providing input to a tournament, streaming a tournament even in the first place, are I would say also there's quite a few roles, especially in some sort of other tournaments like the From Zero to Hero tournament, that kind of put a band-aid on the Gamers Assembly cancellation for just a few months ago. Tournament organisers, especially online, rarely ever get anything out of it, despite all the time they put into it. Mappers, I mean, with very, very few exceptions, often get absolutely nothing for all the work they put in, and that's even if they get their maps picked. Sometimes they don't get their maps picked, and then they're useless. It's just, you can maybe release it a little bit later on, and it will be it will be cool, but it won't get any recognition. The only ones I feel do end up actually getting valued and do end up getting any sort of compensation, be it advertising, be it monetary or anything like that, is things that are being used for advertising purposes, and that's things like skinners, that's things like movie makers and things like that. These are the people that are getting paid by the likes of Nadeo, by the likes of competition organisers, by sponsors, to bring things to the game. Mappers aren't being paid by anyone, Casters aren't being paid by anyone unless they're big casters. It's unless they're casters that are bringing numbers to the game over quality. That's the only time of which casters get paid by. I mean, that was an issue that we'd spoken about previously. But I mean, I think, to be honest, it's something that's been so deeply rooted in Trackmania that it has just felt like, especially for casting and mapping, that if you don't do it, someone else will, or if you don't do it, no one will. And especially for the casting side of things, it doesn't really seem to be anyone's cared about that. I mean, they'll be as happy to let the match go uncasted before they'd, put anything towards a caster to do that. But while we're focusing on mapping, I mean, if I decide to take a stand, not that I map, of course, you don't even want to see what abominations have came out of my map editor, but I mean, if I don't map, someone else will do it. There's so many people who are invested in the mapping scene in Trackmania. It'd take a monumental stand to be made, and it mostly would only affect the smaller tournaments who don't have the capacity to give anything to the mappers anyway. So I do think it's kind of an impossible question, and I think it does take someone like Nadeo to really kind of set a shining example in that regard. Otherwise, mappers are going to just keep dealing with it in the same way they have done. Either continue to make maps and cope with, the kind of shitty whatever it is they get back, or they'll someone else will do it. I mean, we've seen a lot of experienced mappers drop out in the past. Some that are not interested in the Trackmania Grand League side of things have just moved on, and other mappers have took their place, and it's just as simple as that. So I do think it's kind of an impossible point to that, and it really is, as with most other roles in Trackmania, it's a bit of a thankless task.
Yeah, I just want to make it clear, because sure, it's nice if they get rewarded, but you should never start your map editor hoping that you will get rewarded, because you should simply do it because you like it. Like Turbo said, it's going to take so many hours to actually do a good map. The longer you spend in the map editor, the more time you want to spend in it, because you're going to have so much fun that, let's say, after you build a map for, I don't know how long, let's say MD Point used to build a map, or Kiesla builds, let's say 4 hours just to be nice, and then they get 50 euros back, then you get 12 euros per hour. I mean, if that is the motivation for you, then that is high risk and low reward, because the money should just be more like a symbolic from the organizers that we actually care about you. We like the maps that you send in, instead of someone actually, at the moment in Trackmania at least, making some sort of career about it. Maybe in the future you can say that you're a professional mapper, like you build a map every week and you get 1,000 euros from it. I don't know, it's possible, but at the moment it's unlikely. But it's more like a gratitude. It's the same way when Nadeo wanted to sponsor my trip to Trackmania Grand League beta season. I could probably have paid it myself, but they wanted to pay me for it. I was happy, of course, by the money, but it was more like, oh damn, Nadeo is actually caring about what I do in the game, and that motivation gave me, or that that action gave me more motivation than the money. So I think that is also going to be the same for mappers. If Nadeo suddenly becomes like, open map request, the best map is going to get 50 euros, 100 euros. The mappers are being like, okay, Nadeo actually cares about it. If I put time and effort into it, if I get a good map, then I will not only get money from it, but I will also get recognition from it. They will probably promote it better. So yeah, it's all about that, yeah.